Hello, and welcome to another episode of Crossing Bridges Talk Show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr. This is my co-host, Will. Will, introduce yourself.
Good evening, everybody. I'm William Montgomery, and it's a pleasure to be here.
And we have a special guest this week, Mr. Michael T. Brown. And if you give me a second, I will give you a little bit of his background. Mr. Brown, with great purpose and passion, is an LPC, licensed professional counselor. He has been empowering individuals, families, and communities with tremendous success for over 20 years. Michael serves as the principal of Brown's Leadership Consulting, which provides counseling support to individuals and families, consulting services to organizations and businesses. Michael also served as a national trainer for the Why Try LLC, one of the nation's leading resilience education programs that specializes in student achievement, which will be one of our topics this evening with regard to dealing with children who do not have a father present in their home. So, Michael, be prepared to deal with that. Michael also partnered with the D.C. Office of the Attorney General to serve as a trainer for their Violence Interrupter program in 2020. And if we get a chance, we'll have Michael speak to that issue on violence and fatherlessness. Michael authored Michael authored Born to Achieve in 2012 and A Beautiful Challenge 2017. In 2013, Michael hosted the Brown Bag with Michael T. Brown on Blog Talk Radio, interviewing some key community difference makers and flashing the spotlight on the pertinent issues facing our society. Michael is committed to empowering others and communities through education, inspiration, mobilization. Michael also enjoys spending time with family and friends. Okay, I made it through that, and I wrote it. So, Mike, here we are, and let me give you. Oh, I wanted to talk about one issue that came up this week. Let me run the video. It's very short, and then we'll chat about that, and then we'll get right to you, Mike. Okay?
Sounds good.
Let's see. I need to figure out how to do this. Here we go.
Amber Heard verdict sends a message to black women everywhere. On Wednesday, a jury in Virginia decided that actor Johnny Depp had been defamed by ex-wife Amber Heard in her 2018 op-ed published by The Washington Post. Heard did win one claim in the case and received $2 million. I'm heartbroken that the mountain of evidence still was not enough to stand up to the disproportionate power, influence, and sway of my ex-husband, Heard said in a statement shortly after the verdict was announced. She claimed that he headbutted her as well as punched her and dragged her around by her hair. Heard was turned in everything from memes to murals mocking the validity of her abuse. If all of Heard's privilege couldn't protect her from such viciousness, black women, like always, remain even more vulnerable.
Okay. Yeah, my mouth fell off the plate too when I read that. Before I speak, any comments from you guys?
I mean, Michael, would you like to start?
Comments. I think the I don't want to speak on that case in particular,
Mhm.
but what I will say is that I'm glad you guys are having this conversation about violence and how we can interrupt it. And I think we can really a big part of it is to look at where violence stems from. What are the triggers that lead to violence? I think it's a general right belief that violence is bad.
Mhm.
The the good news is that we can do something about it, and I look forward to talking about that moving forward.
Okay. Um, if I wasn't so arrogant, I'd probably leave it right there and let you continue, Mike. But I got something I want to say. I'm just flabbergasted at the fact that while Amber's situation is one thing, but how she leaped from her situation and pasted it across an entire culture is mind-boggling. You know, the case didn't go your way for whatever reason. I don't know how many cases where black women or black men have been on trial for this or that and it didn't go our way. That's one thing. That's like a norm. But for you, a person of privilege, to think that just because you lost, that it's a loss for black people, black women specifically, across the country. I don't know, and it's just my personal opinion, that it is not all about you, Amber. I just don't see that as something that you should have said out loud.
I hear you.
So that was my comment. So we'll segue back into what we're supposed to be doing, talking to Michael. Well, sure.
Well, I mean, not to, pile on a dog pile her, but her experience is her experience. That's her reality. That happened. Nobody's saying that it didn't happen. But the reason why she went to court was because she was sued because she did something that she wasn't supposed to do. They did award her some money, but in all, she lost the case because she defamed his character. And I don't know. He lost the deal with Disney. He's no longer Captain Jack Sparrow from the what's that movie or whatever?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah. So he lost money, but it's when you attack somebody's character, they can't get that back. If you do something like that, and a lot of people feel like it's justified. If he abused her, he should go to jail.
Yeah.
But
and I think that case. No, I think that case points out what happens in a lot of relationships, and that is people often get caught into a cycle of abuse. And fortunately, both of them were able to make it out alive. That's not the case in every situation, but they can hopefully learn and grow from it. But no, I think that case highlighted a lot of what goes on in a lot of situations, because in many ways, that's where the heart of a lot of the violence stems from, particularly in the U.S., domestic situations. And so looking at that played out on TV or in the news, I hope that people will not just choose sides. Well, actually, I do hope they choose sides. Anti-violence, safety, awareness. It can see themselves of how can I better, right? The individual can say, through the lens of what we saw, how can I better myself? What are the nuggets? What are the takeaways? What may be the warning signs? What are the triggers that lead to violence? And if we can do that, I think we all can not just voyeuristically look at what goes on in other people's situations, but maybe ask ourselves personal questions. Where do I stand on the issue of violence or anti-violence? Right? Am I aware of some warning signs that may be happening with people around me, our circle of influence, family members, friends? Are our antennas up so that we can stand on the side of justice and of peace?
Well, I certainly agree. Violence in the household is a problem. Sometimes it's a matter of how we deal with certain things and conflicts in our lives, but it also comes from a lack of understanding and knowledge that we bring to the table. If I was a single man living alone at home and I had a tough day at work, what am I going to do? Come home and beat the walls up? Kick the cat, kick the dog, or whatever? And that's not acceptable either. But when you have a partner who's actually a human being, it's not their fault that you had a bad day. In reality, it may have actually been your own fault that you had a bad day. And you need to be able to sit back and take what's actually yours, and what's not yours, leave it on the table. That's not mine. That was your problem, and I'm not going to carry it home and take it out on somebody else. But we're here to talk about fatherlessness. And Mike, I know you have something to say on that topic. from a different perspective. And I just want to make sure that I get it right here that I asked you to speak about. And sometimes when you get old, your memory gets short. Uh, anyway, student achievement. We want to start with that and then go back to violence, or if you just want to start talking about violence, let's go there.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about achievement and how achievement can help us stem some of those issues you just talked about. I think one of the key principles in life that's important is to identify our purpose and our passion, right? And to set goals. So if we're setting goals to become a better person, to reach our career goals, whether it's personal, professional, relational goals, whatever it is, it's important to know what our target is, right? And let's face it, a lot of people don't get the support, whether it's fatherlessness or growing up in an abusive household or an unhealthy household. That can certainly make it challenging. There's a term called an ACE score. And when you study trauma, right, people who oftentimes struggle with overcoming the trauma in their lives will have a higher ACE score. The ACE score points out how many traumas they've had in their life. I went to a training one time that really stood out, and something that was said there really stood out. They said, before we ask what's wrong with someone, first ask what happened to them. Because oftentimes that tells us, right, where some of the trauma or the pain stems from. So how do we tie that together? I think it's important to first identify, right, what traumas or pain we've experienced in our lives. Now, obviously, as a therapist, that's part of my job is to help people navigate that and put them on a sustainable path to recovery. And at the same time, to be mindful that, no one in many ways, achieves or succeeds alone. So whenever there's been violence, if ever there's fatherlessness, any pain or trauma, it's important to have some clear goals and to build wraparound services for those who need it. I like the expression that says, don't judge a man or a woman based upon where they are. Look at where they came from, how far they had to come, right? So I'll just kick it off with that, and see if you guys, anything you want to weigh in on that.
No, I want you to give me some more.
Okay. So any one of those in particular you want me to dive into more? Student achievement, fatherlessness, violence?
Well, when we talk about student achievement,
Yeah.
Fatherlessness negatively impacts that child.
Yeah.
Because again, you have no benchmarks, you have no background. As a child, you're out there and there's no one to tell you from the male perspective, how you should conduct yourself if you run into a problem, what the thought process should be in order to solve that problem. It's important, as you just mentioned, to know or to be concerned about the fact that someone came from a particular situation, a particular environment, a particular household, or whatever, and now they're here in front of you, and whatever situation is unfolding in front of you, they have whatever skills in their pocket to deal with it, whether they're good or bad.
Yeah.
When you're in a household, when you're coming up along the way, if you don't get those tools or learn those skills, every time you come to face a situation now, you're like, I came to play basketball, but I don't have sneakers and I don't have a ball. This is just not going to work out. It is not going to work out well.
Yeah.
And some of us who may have come through and not had a father in our lives and now have children, we have to understand within ourselves that I've got some shortcomings here.
Yeah.
I want to do the right thing. I want my kid to have more than what I had or a better life than what I had, but I don't have the tools to help them, right? We also have, this trend that seems to be out there, making babies and walking away. And when people ask them, you got this baby mama, whatever, are you in the children's lives? And they stand there and they say, yeah. And they know all they're doing is drive-bys, and not a drive-by to see the kid, but a drive-by to see the baby mama so they can make another baby. You see? So now when it comes down to achieving, yes, we're strong people. We've got a strong will. And some of us are actually going to rise above this. But there are too many of us who are not rising above it. And therein lies the problem. And that's one of the reasons that we do this show, to have conversations, to say, look, it's all right to talk about this. I'm not your father. I am a father. I'm a grandfather. I'm a great-grandfather. Okay, and I mean, actually a great-grandfather. But the point is like I came from a household, I had a part-time father. And so I don't have all the skills that I think I need or needed when I was bringing my children up. I can sit here and talk about me all day long, but from the perspective of a professional like you, Mike, who's been in the trenches dealing with people with the success, how to help a child become a success, how do you deal with that shortfall that a lot of children are facing, black males are facing, because there's no one out there saying, well, hey, let me help you. Even in school, teachers that we have today, we don't have enough black men teaching. We don't have enough school districts who actually encourage black males to come in and teach. And so it's just one of these, it's a cycle that's just going to keep on and keep on going until somebody says, put the brakes on this. We need to make a change. If we can't get the public, the government to do it, then we have to do it ourselves. So I'm going to stop dribbling on and let you come back, Mike.
No, I think you raised some key points. And one thing that really stood out is, you said, well, what do we do? I think we start with the mindset that we can do something and that we're not coming to the table, right, just with a blank sheet of paper. There are people in our society who are willing and able to step up and be what that child needs. And the individual who might not be built for that needs to connect them for whatever reason, whether they're unwilling or unable to step up. That parent who is involved, or that guardian, or that family member who is involved. One of the best things we can do is to point people in the right direction. Mm-hmm. So, because it takes a village, and we have the village mentality, right? I would imagine you talked a little bit about your situation, Larry. I think a lot of people can relate to that. They can connect with, maybe the father was or wasn't there, or was part-time, or was in and out. But the clock keeps ticking. Life keeps moving.
True.
There's a mentor, a coach, a friend, a godfather. And let me just stop and shout out the single parents who are doing it as best they can with what they have. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a single mother right there who's saying, that all sounds good, gentlemen, but I'm on the clock now. What do? I say keep doing what you're doing, right? Keep putting one foot in front of the other. Keep showing up every day. Keep connecting that child as best you can with what you have, right? And so first is the awareness piece, being awareness of what the needs are. What does this child need to be successful? If one parent can't deliver it all, who can, right? And that's the beauty of the village mentality, the village approach. Some people sit back and commentate about the problem. Others are in the trenches, got their sleeves rolled up and doing the work. Connect with those that are doing the work. And it's because the stories, right, go on and on of individuals who might not have had a mother, father in the home, or a father figure in the home, but they were still able to be successful. Particularly when you think about people of faith. There's a scripture that says, when my mother and my father forsakes me, the Lord will take me up. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's not the same if you're at a baseball game and you look up in the stands and mom and dad is not there. However, I think there's some people who may be listening right now that can testify to that. God was a father to me, right? He sheltered me, he kept me, he protected me from hurt, harm, and danger. There's a parent who kept a goal out in front of me, right? I used to use this line, and I hope people find it helpful. When I worked in the middle school, it was too busy to get in trouble.
Mm.
Right? Be so focused on your goal and being connected with positive things that you really don't have time to get caught up in foolishness and in trouble.
Mhm.
So the village approach, having goals, doing what we can with what we have, and oftentimes there's fathers on the sideline who may be willing to step up if we'll tap them on the shoulder, if we nudge them, if we encourage them, if we give them tools, right? I remember I used to do uh, jail ministry, and I would ask the men in here, how many of you have children? A lot of them would raise their hands, and I would encourage them, go back and try your best to reconnect. But the baby mama, I didn't ask about the baby. Try to find that child as best you can. I know it may be difficult. It be might not be easy. Do what you can with what you have. Because sometimes people will be a better father maybe down the road. I heard one gentleman share with me years ago. He said, I wasn't the greatest father, but I want to be a heck of a grandfather. Right? You can't go back and change what happened.
Right.
But maybe if I get the reset button, maybe I can learn and do better the next time around.
Yeah, yeah. And what's important, in addition to what you've just said, is that we have to be able and willing to sit back and take a good assessment of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, you look in the mirror and you say, "Oh man, everything's going good. Life is great for you at this moment in time." But things are going to change. Things change every day.
Yeah.
Every day you live, you get older. And just like the fruit on the tree, it starts to fall off. You no longer got two guns, you got one. The other one is all wrinkled up. You know what I mean? But you still have to be able to say to yourself, well, I got one good gun left. And what can I do with that to help somebody else? Because it's no longer all about me.
Yeah.
You know, I came here with nothing. I'm going to leave with nothing. Only thing in between the coming and the going is what you've done for someone else who will be left behind. You know, and I'm not trying to preach, but the point is that as black men, we need to be able to spread the fact that, yeah, I make mistakes, I made mistakes, but then I do know right from wrong.
You know,
And let me help you with that. Okay.
it's good. It's good. And within that, I want to come back to that point of trying to pull people off the sidelines. Those who are listening, those who know a man who has children, and maybe he's not involved in that child's life the way he needs to be. It's okay to have a conversation around that. That's not judgmental.
No.
That's not accusatory, but that can be encouraging. Yes, accountability, but typically folks in general, I would say, don't respond as well to negative reinforcement. Showing up constantly reminding folks of what they haven't done is oftentimes not the greatest motivator, just to be honest with you, right? Imagine somebody coming into work and your supervisor coming in, all right, guys, let's talk about how horrible you were. Well, you might not get too motivated about doing better the next day, but if you say, hey, look, we missed some things, but I believe in you. I know we can do it. We can do better this week. So maybe there's somebody who's listening, who knows somebody who may be willing to re-engage, but they don't know how. Or maybe they've been so hard on themselves. They've been beating themselves down, and it's like, well, why try now? Well, why not try now? Better late than never.
Yeah.
Only way you can win the game is to get off the sidelines and get that on the field and start from where you are. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's an apology. Maybe it's an acknowledgement. Maybe it's a prayer. God, help me to step up. Yeah. Because oftentimes that child who wants that father's there, I've had so many conversations where folks say, you know what? As adults, I hear grown men and grown grown men in particular say, you know what? Pops wasn't there, but you know what? I ain't even mad at him. I was like, huh? They're like, yeah, you know, I ain't mad at him. Maybe he didn't have the tools. Maybe he was young and he was immature. And oftentimes they'll say, let's start now. Let's build from where we are now.
You know, you hit a lot of buttons there. Me personally, I can say that while my father was probably a part-time father, and that would be, stretching a little bit. But over the years, it dawned on me that his father wasn't in his life. So he had he came to the table with little or nothing.
Yeah.
But one thing that, you made me think about is that having that conversation is something that we need to do, period. It's like, let me show you how to start a car or change the oil in the car, or, fix a chair or something like that there. Fathers pass that on to their children. We need to have that conversation, whether life has been good or bad, that we had a father, didn't have a father, with our children, so they understand that when they come to the point where they're facing this, that they can say, oh, I understand that. You didn't have a father, or now I am a father, and there's some things that I really don't really know. So I got to learn as I go along. I'm going to try to be a quick study, yes, but some of this stuff I'm learning as I go along, so please forgive me, and be able to forgive yourself. But you can't forgive yourself until you've actually opened up and said, I don't know all of this. This is new to me.
And often to acknowledge, to be willing to apologize, but ultimately to try to be better moving forward.
Right.
I like the way one of my clients put it. She said, the best apology is changed behavior. Mm-hmm. That's one thing to say, I'm sorry. It's a whole other thing to get better, do better, and show up. Like you talked about, Wayne, right? It's maybe I don't show up with the tools, but I'm here. Right? I don't know really what I'm doing, but I'm here. I think we need more people to say,
I'm here, and I'm willing to learn.
That's it.
You got to be willing to learn.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with not knowing.
That's right.
I can't tell you how many times I showed up to situations where I really didn't know what was going on. However, I tried to bring an attitude of, well, let me be a quick study.
Yeah.
Let me let people know that I'm not clear in this. Please explain it. Is that how this work, or is it work this way, type of a thing? Be open to learning on the fly.
That's key, to be open to learning. And I think that's just a key principle in life moving forward. That's just a key life principle, right? Mm-hmm. To be willing to learn, to be willing to ask questions, to be a seeker. I say, you guys can give me your feedback on this. Men in particular, fathers in particular, do two key things from my viewpoint with children. One is offer a sense of identity, and two, offer a sense of security. Right? It's like you have a floor underneath you when you have a father. Moms, right, oftentimes come in and give so much love and encouragement and nurture, right? That's innate in their nature, right? And I'm generalizing here because we know both can go both ways, where moms can help give security and identity, fathers can give a sense of love and encourage support. So I'm speaking in generalities on this. But when it's like the father puts the thumbprint on that child, and it's almost like, now I know who I am, I can succeed. When the world tries to hit you and tells you what you're not, what you can't accomplish, that father can speak into you, right? And say, no, you're chosen, you have a purpose. And then that sense of security, right? That sense of safety. When there's a sense of safety, now there's willing to take risks. Son, daughter, go for it. Right? Dad's got your back. Let me just pause and just commend you guys right now for what you're doing here. right? A father and son saying, you know what? Let's come together and put positive content out there. There's so much talk about generational gaps. That's why I love the name of the show, right? Crossing Bridges. Too often we speak about these generational gaps as if we're commentators. What's wrong with the youth? What's wrong with the young folk? You cross the bridge, you have the conversation, right? Yeah. If we're not talking to one another, how can we cross the bridge? We can't cross it, right? So I commend you for this work, and I think conversations like this, right, can hopefully keep the dialogue going and may prick some hearts today. Yeah.
Thank you. Will, you had something?
Oh, I'm soaking all this up. There's like quite a few points that each one of y'all have mentioned and stuff, and I think as far as achievements, fathers put that in their children too. I mean, mothers can, like I said, I'm speaking in generality.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning, you get your kids up and you're dealing with them. They either see you getting dressed up in your suit or putting on your work boots or whatever. They're like, look, Dad's getting ready to go to work. You know what I'm saying? Look how good my dad looks. You know what I'm saying? He go out there, he do his thing, and like I want to be like Dad when I wake up, when I grow up. And so, and I'm pretty sure that females look up to their mother like that. Hey, my mom, she always looks amazing. I want to be like her when I grow up too. But we each have a way of putting that thumbprint on our children. It's just for us, we're speaking about men at the present time, and showing somebody that you get knocked down, drug out, the day before work, and then you get back up and you go back out there, do the same thing again. The very next day you ain't quitting. That inspires people, men and women. So if you have somebody that does that, you setting that child on the path. Like, okay, well, dang, Dad came home, knuckles bruised up because he was out there doing construction, and Mom bandaged him up. We put some ice on it or whatever, and look, he's going back out there again tomorrow. Like, woo,
you really hit some key things there, William. And as you were talking, I can think about my father who passed away in 2013.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
No, I appreciate you saying that. But his impact was felt, and I'm still beneficiary of that impact. His impact continues. And he was a minister, and I think about one of the hallmarks of his ministry was his transparency and to talk about his own stuff. Wow. He just didn't show you his stars. He would talk about his scars. The mistakes, the challenges, not from a voyeuristic standpoint, but from a standpoint of look at it, learn from it. And some of it you won't have to repeat, right? Yeah. He would always say, you don't have to experience everything to learn from someone else's experience.
Right.
And I think that's so key moving forward, that we approach these topics with the right spirit and the right mindset. So I believe a spirit of humility. Therefore, for the grace of God, go I. Right? To understand that we all can do better from where we are. A learning growth mindset, right? That I've never arrived. I put it this way, personal growth has no finish line. Every day is an opportunity to learn more, to get better, to be better, and do better, right? It's better to see a sermon than hear a sermon, I've heard before, right? Like you talked about that, William, when you see your dad getting up and going and doing. You can sit and lecture to somebody that all day, but it's another thing when you see it on a daily basis, right? This is what we do. We have to be able to grind. We have to be able to provide. And I think about men in particular. Sometimes we struggle with things that we're not good at. We stay away from it, right? Right? And it makes sense, right? Not men in particular, but people in general, but men in particular. So, like you said earlier, Larry, it's okay to identify maybe I'm not the best at this. Sometimes guys say, hey, look, you know what? All that people skills stuff, I know how to get up and work. You know what I'm saying? I know how to do that, right? But then we don't get a pass on that. It's okay. Maybe, you're not the best at it. Where do we go to get the tutelage, the training, and the knowledge? That's where the technology can come into play. I've got so many mentors, guys, that I've never met. I can study their videos. I can read their books. Right? I've heard it put, I was watching a video here recently. I love this thing. We're living in the best times of our lives. We got more access now than ever. And I get it. We got major problems, major challenges. No way around it. My God, look at this past couple weeks, right? The violence. No way around it. Challenges big, yes. Opportunities big, yes.
You know,
Somebody, yeah.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure I put the rubber stamp on the 2 points that both of you brought out. Seeing your father do things
Yeah.
and the father talking about what he did. It's great to see a man your father get up and go to work, came back, had a hard day or whatever. As William said, just got beat up, and he came home, got patched up, and got up and did it again. The child sees everything. You don't know what a child sees and picks up on, but eventually it starts to come out of him. So you're getting up, you're doing the right thing, or you're getting up and you had a problem, you forgot something, you messed up or whatever, you still have to stop and talk about it.
Mm.
This is where you really make the impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get up and go to work. Why? Because it's my job. It's my responsibility. Or because I want to make things comfortable for you so you can accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
So we have a nice household. We have food on the table. If something goes wrong, we've got a car, or, all those things that, come into play that people take for granted because you ain't paying for it yet. When you have to pay for it, you start to realize you appreciate, yeah, that old car out there, man. I just got to keep it washed and gassed. I'm good. But buying it, all that went to, why did you work so hard to buy it? Because I knew what it was going to do for me once I got it.
Yeah.
It's one thing to see your dad get up and walk. And I'm not saying anything wrong, but I'm just saying to make the point. I saw him get up every day and go to work and come home broke, busted, and disgusted or whatever. But then he sat down and he told me, one day, you're going to inherit this car. That's why I work so hard to keep it up. One day, you'll have your own family and you know how important it is. The love that I get when I come home and I see your smiling faces running up to me saying, "Oh, daddy, daddy, daddy," whatever. Sometimes you're looking for the pizza guy, but they still say daddy first. That was a joke. But anyway, you can't do, they can't see you do anything if you're not there. And if you don't tell them and explain to them from time to time, this is why I do this. Or if I didn't put those extra hours in last week, we wouldn't have had a Christmas this year. Stuff like that there. Kid realize, oh yeah, man, go to work and be able to buy gifts for my kid, for my children, that's a good thing. So you put it in the back of their head. And when they get children, they look forward to doing that for them. Your father never bought you. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, finish.
Yeah, your father never bought you a gift. You never seen him bring a gift in the house. My father never bought me a gift, but I knew that he gave my mother money to buy gifts with because she would raise holy hell if she didn't get the money. But anyway, he did what he did. And so those times when he was there, I can appreciate, that, yeah, you worked because there was some days that you didn't have any money.
Yeah.
But let me stop there.
No, you're right. You touched some key things, and as you were sharing about communication, that's so important. That that we are willing to communicate effectively with our children and with anyone, right, in our circle of influence. Oftentimes parents teach us what to be and what not to be, what to do and what not to do. All of it's a lesson if we're open to learn, right? Some people are fueled by their pain. Some people are determined they'll be a better father because their father was not there for them. You talked about how your dad was part-time, but he was better than his dad. Now Larry can be better to William and William's siblings, right?
Mm-hmm.
William, if he has children, can be more present for it. That's the generational impact that we can learn, get better. But you raise a key point: communication. We need to talk about these things because not talking about it won't make it go away.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Right. You need to understand that in the conversation, how did we get to this point? You know, just because, you know, I put the extra hours in or whatever, or, you know, I lost my job and I used to do this, I was a plumber, whatever, you know, and now I'm out, you know, kind of hustling here and there,
Yeah.
you know, in the interim doing the best I can, because we've got other challenges out there that as black men that we face.
And part of what
Yeah.
I think, Larry, within that is, you know, to be willing to hear people's stories,
Yeah.
understand their background, understand their story, understand what led them to get there, right? I say it this way, you know, sometimes people have done the best they could with what they had at the time.
Absolutely. I said that about
Sometimes
my
they-
father.
Sometimes they didn't do the best they could with what they had at the time. Either way, they did what they did, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes we throw that out there. They did the best they could. Well, not always. Right? They could have done better, and maybe they chose not to. Right? But either
but you
way,
know-
you talk
but
about
you know,
that, Larry.
you-
That's how you feel about him, huh?
But the point you make, you know, is personal to me.
Yeah.
Because first off, is true across the board. That's not the question. But when my father died, you know, my other siblings, they had opinion. You know, he wasn't there. This, that. And I looked at him and I said, you know, the man did the best he could with what he had. You know, and I knew it because one thing about my father, he wouldn't come and talk to me about situations, but he would talk to his friends who came back when he died and told me, oh, your father, yeah, man, he was a nice guy, but he was so proud of you and so on and so forth. They ain't got to say nothing. They could have said, oh, yeah, I remember Quinn, he a good guy, whatever, and keep it moving. No, he said, oh, man, he used to always brag about you, you know, how proud he was, you did this, you did that, you did this. But my father never told me that. And so, you know, I'm not getting choked up, but I am.
Okay.
That makes me, at this moment in time, Michael, because of the points that you made, say to my son, I am so proud of you. I mean, I could cry how proud I am of you and all my children. Because it didn't have to be this way. It could have been a totally different story. But God, you know, but for God. And so I'm going to have to take a minute and I'm going to let William do what Ed McMahon is supposed to do.
Whew. Okay.
William, how does that make you feel hearing that? What are your thoughts?
Speechless. Whew.
You have children, William?
Yeah, I have a daughter. I gotta do my admin note real quick. It's gonna be a little tough because, you know, I need a minute too.
It's okay, take your time.
We'd like to take this time to, you know, thank our viewers for participating. And if you would like to be a part of the show, please drop a message in the comments. If you'd like to hear a topic for us to talk about, if you want to make a recommendation, you know, also hit us in the comment section.
Okay.
But,
Well, I came back just in time.
Say
Mike,
that-
I appreciate you coming on. We didn't get a chance to talk about the violence interrupter, and I hope maybe you can come back again someday and we can focus right in on that and get that out there, because I know that's an important topic. Sometimes
Thanks for having me.
yeah, and so we're going to call it a day, and we'll be here again next week, God willing, and the creek don't rise.
And the creek don't rise.
Peace.